me tell you about Baba Yaga. She is a fearsome witch. You do not want to meet Baba Yaga, but I will introduce you at a distance. Now, what does she look like? She's tall, she's skinny, she loves to eat, children especially. I don't know where she puts it, but she has those long legs. She can run very fast. How else does she get around? In her mortar. She climbs into her mortar, it rises into the air, and with her pestle, she rolls all over the place when she's not running on those long, skinny legs. Where does Baba Yaga live? In a hut on chicken legs deep into the forest. It's surrounded by a fence of bones, and on top of those bones are skulls that light up at night. Now, again, you do not want to visit Baba Yaga, but sometimes you can't help it. And this is what happened with a girl named Vasilisa, who already had a lot of heartache in her life. Well, first of all, her mother died. I mean, that's awful enough. But then her father married a woman who kind of looked okay on the outside. She was really mean, but she didn't show it until the father died. And then she showed her true colors, which were hideous. And she had 2 daughters who were indolent and nasty. And as soon as the father was out of the way, Vasilisa had to do all the work. But you know, she didn't complain. She was sturdy, she was kind, and she was kind of buoyed inside by the love of her mother. And so she did her chores, sweeping and cooking, getting the water, getting the wood, endless chores, with a relatively cheerful disposition. There was a problem. As these young women grew up, it was time for them to get married. And Vasilisa was very beautiful, and those stepdaughters were not so beautiful. So the stepmother had to get rid of Vasilisa, and this is what she cooked up. There they were at night. They were doing kind of needlework, vaguely, you know, that's what well-brought-up women do, but they were not paying a lot of attention. However, you should have seen the heap of clothes, because those stepdaughters were very clumsy with their clothes. They were ripped to a fairly well, and she was sewing assiduously, and then the candle went out, one candle. And so she tried to light another candle and another candle, and none of them would light up. Why, you may want to know? Well, it turns out that the stepmother, she was a kind of a witch herself, and she had put this spell, so they were plunged into darkness. And then she said, "Oh, Vasilisa, go into the forest and get the light from Baba Yaga." And Vasilisa was terrified, of course. But what could she do? And you know, I forgot to tell you something really important. Before her mother died, she gave her a little doll, and she said, "If you are in trouble, talk to this doll, and this doll will help you." And so she put the doll in her pocket, and she put her shawl around her shoulders, and she started out into the dark night. And now there was a moon, but in the forest there are shadows, and there she was, going towards something she knew was pretty terrifying. And at a certain point, there was a horse, a red horse, with a rider with a red cloak. And then, here comes a white horse with a rider with a white cloak. And dawn turned to day, and there she was in the forest. It wasn't dark anymore, but she knew that she was gonna meet Baba Yaga pretty soon. And she walked, and she walked, she clutched her doll, and then the black horse with a black rider. And night fell, but she saw it in the near distance. It was the hut on chicken legs. That's where Baba Yaga lives. And she just hid behind a bush. She hoped that Baba Yaga wasn't home. And then she heard, and down came the mortar, and out climbed Baba Yaga, who said, "I see you there, what do you want?" And Vasilisa, clutching her doll in the pocket, she said, my stepmother needs a light, and she asked me to get a light from you. Said Baba Yaga, "I know that, stepmother. I know those stepdaughters. You could have asked for better relatives. But if you want the light, you can work for me. And if you do well, you might get the light, and if you don't..." What could Vasilisa do but follow Baba Yaga into the yard? You have to know that the latch was like a mouth with teeth, and the bolt was a bone, and she plucked this open and stepped into the yard. Around the bones were clustering, and then they had to climb. These were tall chicken legs into the hut, and I have to tell you, Baba Yaga is a terrible housekeeper. Oh, it was a mess. Stuff, crap all over the place. Baba Yaga said, "Well, you know, I'm hungry. I'm almost hungry." And Vasilisa started to quake because she knew what Baba Yaga liked to eat. But Baba Yaga said, "In the oven, bring out the food." It wasn't a very big oven, but out came dish after dish after dish after dish after dish. And you should have seen Baba Yaga, skinny woman. She hoovered that food up. Where did she put it? I don't know. But in any case, she said, all right. In the morning, I'm going away. I have some jobs for you." She said, "First of all, look at this mess. Look at this mess. Take care of it. Take care of it. The laundry, the dishes, the floor, the yard." And then she said, also the haystack. There's wheat, there's chaff, separate them. And in the morning, she flew off in her mortar. Now, as you can imagine, Vasilisa did not sleep very well. But the doll spoke to her, kind of in the voice of her mother. And she said, "Do not worry. The morning is wiser than the evening." And you know what she did? The doll did all that work. And all Vasilisa had to do was cook up the food, and she was a very good cook. And so, when the mortar landed, and Baba Yaga stepped out and peered around, and she saw the stack of gleaming dishes, and the folded laundry, and the swept floor, and the swept yard. She said, "Yeah, you must have had some help. Where's my food?" And out came dish after dish after dish. She sucked it in, and she gave a not-so-ladylike belch. She said, you did well, but tomorrow it'll be even harder." And in the morning, she went off in her mortar, and these were the tasks that awaited. The windows, they were so grimy. She had to clean the windows. And the haystack, in the haystack there was a precious needle. She had to find the needle. And then that pile of dirt, well, Baba Yaga said, "Poppy seeds in there. I don't like dirty poppy seeds. Separate them out." And sure enough, the doll plucked the needle. The doll separated what needed to be separated. You should have seen a heap of dirt and shining poppy seeds. It all worked beautifully. Oh, the windows sparkled. Baba Yaga came back. She said, "You did it. You must have gotten some help. Where's my food?" And out came the food, and she inhaled it. And she said, "Well, you know, you seem to have done it. I don't know how you did it, but you can ask me a question. And if it's the right question, good. And if it's the wrong question..." And Vasilisa clutching the doll, she said, well, there were these horses. There was a red horse, and there was a white horse, and there was a black what were those horses? With their riders, with their cloaks? And Baba Yaga said, good, you didn't ask what happens in the hut. I don't like people knowing my business. That red horse is my dawn. And actually the white horse. The red horse is the dawn, and the white horse is the day, and the black horse is my night. And now I'm going to ask you a question. How did you do all that work? What kind of help did you get? And clutching the doll, Vasilisa said, with the love of my mother. Now, Baba Yaga hated that word, love, but she knew she had been trumped. And she said, okay, you grab one of those skulls and you take it to your stepmother, make sure you give it to her. And sure enough, down the ladder, the chicken legs, the ground, the yard, the bones, the latch with the teeth, the bolt with the bone, and out she went clutching the skull that lighted up her path. And then the horseman came, and it was daytime, and then the black horse came, and it was night, but the skull gleamed, showing her the way. And she finally got to that horrid, toxic house she had grown up in, and it was dark. And she said, what's going on in there? Are they sleeping? And she put the skull down, but the skull spoke to her and said, you better give that skull directly to your stepmother. And she stepped in, and she saw them, the three of them, just sitting there in the dark, kind of frozen. The stepmother's spell worked all too well. She plopped that burning skull into the stepmother's lap. Conflagration. They were done. Now, what was Vasilisa going to do then? Well, she found a kind old woman, and because she didn't have to work so hard, she said, you know what, I weave. I would like to weave something. You have some thread? And she wove the most exquisite cloth. And she said, take this cloth to the market. But the woman took it to the market, and everyone said, this is too fine, take it to the Tsar. And she took it to the Tsar, and the Tsar said, who is this weaver? And when he saw Vasilisa, they fell in love, and all was well. But you know, once you've met Baba Yaga, she doesn't let go. They talk, she and the doll, periodically. You remember the time in the forest with Baba Yaga? Yes, I do. I wonder what she's up to now. I'll tell you, she's still at it.